Hey everyone, I hope you're all having a fantastic day so far. Today, I want to talk about the top 5 career models to embrace in 2025. Now, if automation cut your role in half overnight, would your income survive the shock? That's a really important question, especially because of all the changes that are happening given the tariffs and all of this kind of stuff. But again, before we get into it, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to hear more things centered around contracting, portfolio careers, and the alike. And of course, if you don't know who I am, my name is Michael Tabirade. I'm an independent management consultant and founder of the consultancy, The Mastery Group. So what we're going to do is break down 5 career models poised to thrive in 2025 and how to position yourself for each one. Now, let me be clear. When it comes to these different career models, this is something that I gave some thought to. I'm not necessarily going to be right, okay? But there is opportunity to capitalize on this stuff, not just from a career standpoint, but also from a business standpoint as well. So if you're feeling entrepreneurial, if there's something that you can embed in your business or other businesses or organizations, then of course, by all means, take this stuff on board. So, Portfolio Professional 2.0, what does this really mean? Well, essentially, it's the opportunity to diversify your income by combining multiple different types of work, okay? Now, for me, I talk a lot about contracting and independent consulting. And why do I do this? Because I believe it is one of the best ways to prepare yourself for the world that we're moving into. Now, essentially, when it comes to the whole consulting space and all that kind of jazz there, I've recognized that consultancy is broken up into at least 3 different arms. If you're working independently in order to get this portfolio fill, you're going to have the delivery arm, you're going to have the productized arm, and you're going to have some sort of coaching or advisory arm. What do I mean by this? Delivery arm is really centered around doing services for a specific end client, okay? So this might be your outside of IR35 consulting or contracting. When it comes to your productized arm, this could be a digital product. This could be a certain type of audit or report or gap analysis that you do for an end client, but it's repeatable. You can do it again and again and again. And in some instances, it's scalable. And when it comes to the coaching or advisory arm, that's self-explanatory. You're going to be advising or coaching individuals who are very seasoned in what they're doing, very experienced, or who are junior in what they're doing and need support in order for them to transition into the space that they want to move into. And so this is what we're looking at, is combining different income sources so that you have a certain resilient structure. The other thing to bear in mind is trying to stack your authority in many different ways. And the way your authority stack is by building a strong personal brand. And that means providing value via what you say and what you do on various different means, whether this is via content, books, articles, newsletters, podcasts, speaking arrangements, all this kind of stuff. So all of this stuff builds upon creating this sense of authority. And I guess the other thing on this list is ensuring that you have an IR35 compliant setup. Now, I've spoken about IR35 many times before, and really it's how you get taxed as a contractor within the UK. So if you're inside, you get taxed like an employee. If you're outside, your business gets taxed. And so it's more efficient. And so depending on which one you do, you need to satisfy some terms. If you're outside of IR35, this is making sure that you provide your own resources. You can subcontract other individuals to do work on your behalf. You can make sure that you do other contracts whilst you're doing this contract. And so there are at least 5 conditions that you need to comply by in order to be deemed as outside. If you're inside, it's slightly different and there's less pressure. And so bearing all this stuff in mind makes you more IR35 compliant. And it may be sensible to get the right insurances in place, IR35 status insurance, I guess, if this is something you're considering. And I've got some insurance recommendations below in the description of this YouTube video. So the next thing is thinking about human-centric tech translation. Okay, what does this really mean? So just to be clear, the first was about developing a portfolio career, okay, centered around contracting. This is more centered around being a tech translator, but having a more human-centric approach to it. And so we know already that there is more of a push to making sure that ChatGPT, Gemini, which I think is pretty good in some instances, and Claude, to making its generation more human-centric. So this comes down to prompt engineering. How do you prompt things in such a way to make it more human-specific? Now, of course, you can give people the juice and the sort of like prompt to help them do this by themselves, and they won't need you after that. But sometimes it needs fine-tuning and a certain nuance in order to continue to have this human-centric approach. And so we have copywriting, but copywriting may transition into something that is more focusing on how do you make AI sound more human, or how do you make AI sound more like the individual. I've got some pointers for that, but again, my pointers may not necessarily be the thing that you need right now. So think about, are there businesses, does your workplace, do you require a more human touch? And if so, what does that process look like? The other thing to mention is there is a lot of change happening in terms of the AI and automation space. It's actually quite scary. And so there are so many deep fakes that exist. Whether there is a deep fake that can look like you and sound like you and speak like you, that opens things up when it comes to, let's say, eye recognition or voice recognition or whatever it may be. So cybersecurity is a thing that becomes more important. So maybe there is a case for you to start thinking about how can you develop the skills or the opportunity to support the cybersecurity space and help organizations, individuals improve their cybersecurity. So is this looking at things like ISO 27001? Is this making sure that cybersecurity essentials is adopted and you're helping individuals complete their application for that? What does this look like? So there is an opportunity there for sure. And of course, when it comes to this stuff, you know, it's making sure that you are consistent in ensuring that the right quality is upheld. So I'm going to leave it there and move on to the next point, which is centered around behavioral data storytelling. Okay. This is really centered around the fact that data tells a story, but not many people are good at telling stories when it comes to data. They're not good at it. And so you have to be positioned in a way where you can understand a certain type of data set really well and find ways to tell that story. And so here, this really comes down to utilizing psychological concepts, sociological concepts, in addition to ways of displaying information and helping people understand it in a friendly way so that they can make better decisions. And so your job as this behavioral data storyteller is to essentially develop presentations, develop infographics, develop informational dashboards in a way that is user-friendly for the layperson. A 5-year-old could understand what it is that you're trying to explain. That is the purpose of this behavioral data storyteller. Of course, it may not necessarily be called this, but if you're within that space of big data, big tech, all of that kind of stuff there, how are you telling stories so that you can convey the right message to your stakeholders and they can make better decisions? So think about all of this stuff and think about how you can position yourself to be in this space. The next thing is a regenerative operations strategist. Sounds really sort of like a top end. But essentially, it's finding ways to essentially measure success. How do we clearly use the stuff around us, such as analytics, prediction, data, to help us be more efficient and effective with how we deliver, how we operate in certain spaces? And so this really comes down to, number one, being clear about what does good efficiency look like? What does good KPIs look like? But two, what does that look like from a eco-friendly standpoint? Okay, from a standpoint where you are minimizing waste when it comes to energy. And this becomes more of a thing as more and more people contribute to climate change, etc., etc. And of course, as technology improves, there is going to be more processing power, which requires more sort of like fuel to produce electricity, produce the energy we need for all of these different outputs. So if you can be central to this and create opportunities for efficiencies, then of course, why not? It makes sense to tailor your sort of like best efforts towards helping these individuals. So quick question before I continue. Which of the first, it says 3 here, but really 4 models feels most aligned with your strengths? Okay. Is it the portfolio one? Is it the translator, the storyteller, or the regenerative operations strategist? Let me know your comments and thoughts below. And of course, if you're looking to essentially transition into contracting, or at least want to improve your career prospects, then check out my link below to find out whether there is a suitable time for us to have an initial call. The next thing I want to talk about is a community-driven micro-educator. And I mean, I feel like everyone's kind of on this, or a lot of people are on this at the moment. Community, community, community. A lot of people want community. A lot of people want to be surrounded by other individuals who want to win, but are guided by somebody who is winning according to them. And so this is where it's less about, you know, some sort of access and you pay a monthly fee and, you know, and that's it, kind of left to your devices. But this is more of a cohort-based small set of programs that creates a certain level of accountability because people want to achieve results, winning with the right people. So there is an opportunity here to create that space in specific niches. Niche is just another word that describes a group of people who want to solve a certain type of problem, a burning problem, so to speak, where you can get paid for it. Now, of course, with these different cohorts, it would require you to add some sort of resources, whether this is an evergreen funnel, some sort of courses in the back end, some templates, etc., that help support this. Now, of course, when speaking about this stuff, it may feel like you can only do this from a B2C standpoint, business to consumer, business to customer. However, you can do this B2B. And if you heard what I said at the beginning in terms of the three-pronged approach when it comes to consulting, i.e. a delivery arm, okay, a coaching or advisory arm, or productized service, this could be your productized service. Maybe it's productized in a way where you provide some sort of tools or even expertise in a way where it's packaged a certain way. Maybe it helps individuals with, or businesses with, their diagnosis of some stuff, or the methodology that they use for their projects or program management, whatever it may be. It can be productized a certain way if you have the audience for it. So don't just think B2C, you can also think B2B as well. So bonus tip for you. So here are some strategic steps. These are not really steps, but I would say examples that you can think about in terms of how you can better position yourself. So this is just something I was playing around with. So I've got key moves, okay, in the second column of this table, and micro actions aligned to them, and then example success metrics. So for example, the key move here is to clarify your value. This is the first step. Craft a 1-sentence value promise and check it on your LinkedIn sort of like headline to see if you get any positive engagement around it. This one line, one sentence headline helps you articulate and define what precisely you are helping people with. It's an I help statement. It doesn't have to start with I help, but you're talking about who you help, what you do, and how you do it. Very easy, okay? Take some time to do it. And see if there's any increases in views on your LinkedIn, okay? Write down how many views you get in your profile now and compare that in the next 30 days. Second key move you could think about, and this doesn't have to be done in a particular order, although I've done it in that way. I'm calling it the authority burst. So this is where you publish, I would say 1,000 to 1,500 word LinkedIn newsletters, okay? Accompanied by other types of content, or maybe you appear on a guest podcast, whatever it may be, in order to boost your following. So the whole point is producing content. This is where you may have a bit of a schedule. So you've got your I help statement, this one sentence. You understand what the pain point is. You've done all of that work. You know there's a market for it. So then you start talking about stuff aligned to that pain that you're helping people solve, okay? That's what you're doing. And so with that in mind, you know, think about, is there a content rhythm that you have? Maybe you post 3 times a week. Maybe you do some outreach in terms of podcasts, okay, that you want to sit on. Keep on trying with these individuals. Maybe there is a situation where you do something else. Whatever it is, think about how you can get more seen. It's about producing visibility, okay? The next thing is what I'm calling as a key move, a network uplift. So this is where you start to message people. Now, of course, there are 2 ways in which you can do this, and I've used this as one example. You can direct message different industry leads, you know, that you believe are likely paid clients, or paying clients, should we say. So that is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is if you go via the attraction marketing route, and because your content really works, you're betting on the fact that people are going to message you, which means your content has to be targeted to certain individuals, okay? And the final way is maybe you do some sort of event where there is a small select group of individuals who come to this event, and that's where you have the opportunity to essentially do discovery calls with them, or learn more about what it is that they're looking for. One sneaky, I wouldn't say sneaky way, one smart way, should I say? I don't want to ever be sneaky. I don't think that's the right word, but one smart way is to do some sort of assessment. And the assessment defines precisely what they're looking for in that moment once they've completed it. So these are other ways you can do it. And of course, if we're moving to the next key move, you can go down the offer test route, okay? This is what I'm calling it. So launch some sort of beta service, launch some sort of survey, launch some sort of like maybe course, get some people in either for free or for really low amounts, okay, in terms of money, and test to see how it works. Get the feedback, understand what works, what doesn't work, what would you improve. But if you can get them paid initially, even if it's for a really small amount, you're training people to understand that actually they need to pay you for your time. And of course, you can use that information to improve whatever you're offering, but also position yourself to get testimonials as well, which you can use as content. And of course, once you've launched this and you've actually started to do this on a more regular basis, you can start thinking about the next key move, which is around the scaling engine. Of course, it's not this simple, but I'm just giving you ideas to think about. And with scaling, this is where you start thinking about systemizing, bringing help via a virtual assistants or sales team, maybe thinking about a referral program, whatever it may be, okay? There are different ways in which you can scale. Obviously, there are ads as well if you're thinking about using ads. So hopefully that gives you a sense of what you can do in terms of better positioning yourself, but it's going to be bespoke to all of your different situations. So I'm not going to get into too much detail, but I spoke about 5 different key areas or career models or roles that you can start thinking about when it comes to this whole space. But really and truly is understanding what the market trends are. That's what it comes down to. And if you can better understand those trends, especially within your given circle, then this is where the opportunity lies for sure. Of course, connect with me if you want to. If you're looking to connect with me on the LinkedIns and all the other social medias, I'm all at Michael Tabirade. Of course, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more videos centered around this stuff. Again, if you want to see more things centered around portfolio careers, contracting, independent consulting, and the alike, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.